Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Adi and today I have the first BDSP VGC team report on the channel and I'm joined by a very special guest. I have PasDer. How you doing?
Hey Adi, thanks for having me first of all. I'm feeling great after this tournament. I had much fun playing this format and it was my first time playing in not Dynamax format, or well, not exactly because we had Series 10, but it was the first time playing real VGC for me since I started playing back in 2020 with Series 5 in Dynamax.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a breath of fresh air for us old timers, and I'm glad that you've embraced this this new or this old style of VGC. But first, do you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself and also maybe your full name, because I said I can't pronounce that.
Yeah, all right. Hey everyone, my name is Paschalis Dermentzis. I'm from Greece. I'm 24 years old, and I'm studying electrical engineering. Two things I love are motorcycles and Pokemon VGC, obviously, and I enjoy team building the most.
And so you played in the Victory Road GG Tour Sinnoh Open. It was 151 players, and you went 8-0 in Swiss, undefeated, before losing in top 16 in what was all very close to being a mirror, with this really cool rain team that we have right here. And so do you want to tell me about how you approached this early metagame, what your team building looked like over the first couple weeks of this format, and how you ended up with these 6 Pokemon?
All right, so going into this metagame, I had literally no idea how to approach it because I was a very fresh player. And I had to look back in older formats to find what's wrong. And then my eye fell on a team that had Rain plus Scissor in it. I think it was Matthew Coyle's team from Worlds 2012. So I decided to work around that. I kept the Rain mode and Scissor and slowly started adding things. Noticed how Scissor was everywhere on the ladder. Like every team had a Scissor and a Tyranitar and a Garchomp. And found that Intimidate will be really helpful to slow these physical attackers down. So I slapped an Arcanine, which handled Scissor great and also slowed down Garchomp and Tyranitar. Not that great because it gets hit for super effective, but I took care of that with the EV spread, going for more physical defense than special. Then a few things that started to be annoying playing on the ladder were Gengar, because it hit Ludicolo for super effective damage, and having Sass didn't really help with KOing it before it KOs my Ludi. It also pressured Scissor with Will-O-Wisp, so I decided I need something faster than Gengar, and that's how Raikou came in the team eventually, which surprisingly for me helped in a lot of matchups. Especially that set I played with Snarl Reflect allowed me to position Scissor and Ludi in a bunch of situations. Latios was probably the last piece that came into the team, along with Raikou. They kind of came into the team together because I felt like the synergy is great and I needed a ground immunity on the team. So that's how Latios came in. The set is a bit weird, as you can see. Psychic Recover, Calm Mind, and Dragon Pulse with Soldew. That choice was mostly to check Garchomp opposing Latios, at least for the speed tie, Salamence, that some people use as the Intimidate option. So I tried to cover most of the things that I used to see playing on the ladder.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so I guess you mentioned that you wanted to start out with Rain, but there's a couple different other options that I've seen on Rain. In particular, I've seen people running some Pelipper instead of Polytoad. I think we saw one. They got second place. Pado used Pelipper on a very similar team. And then we also saw, I occasionally saw Kingdra instead of Ludicolo as the Rain Abuser. So why did you choose Polytoad Ludicolo as your Rain core?
The reason I chose Polytoad and Ludicolo over Pelipper and Kingdra, or Ludi again, that some people use like Pado did, and very successfully, was mostly because of the bulk Polytoad adds to a team and the repositioning, while Pelipper is a bit weird on that part. And Ludicolo also offered Fake Out, something that Kingdra didn't, and I think that made it valuable to bring even without the Rain mode. I played a lot of times without bringing Poly, just bring Ludicolo for the Fake Out, behind screens, Gnarls, and Intimidate.
Yeah. I remember I talked to some other people who just started out in this past year, and they were like, "Yeah, Fake Out's overrated. I don't know why all you old people keep talking about Fake Out like it's the best move in the game." And now you start to figure out why Fake Out is so important without Dynamax. So it definitely makes a lot of sense to pick Ludi. And I think that I mentioned I saw a decent amount of Kingdra earlier in the metagame, but looking at this top cut, almost every single Rain team has a Ludicolo. I think every single one does that made top cut. So definitely the right choice there. And so we saw one of the things that I think that is cool about this team is that I think almost everyone in this top cut kind of team built independently, but we saw a lot of Ludicolo with a Rain Abuser, Arcanine, Scizor, Raikou. Those 5 Pokemon were almost on it felt like half the top cut teams. There were a lot of them. And so this sort of feels like the standard Rain team as of now. But can you talk to me about the specific movesets on the team and the EV spreads on the team and why you chose to build a Pokemon the way you did?
Where would you like to start? Scizor, maybe?
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's go with Scizor. Scizor, first of all, is the centerpiece of this team and how I wanted to play the Rain team. I found that if I eliminated the Fire-type weakness Scizor has, it will be extremely difficult to remove it from the field, which is the reason I chose to build around this archetype. The set of the Scizor is a very bulky one, as you can see, without any attack investment, and a careful nature. The reason behind that is that with this particular build, it could tank a lot of hits in Rain, even super effective ones and quad super effective ones, which is the fire types, of course. And it also played nice behind the supports that Raikou and Arcanine are, with Intimidate, Snarl, Reflect. Once I eliminated the fire type coverage the opponent will bring, Scizor could literally just set up 1, 2, or even 3 sword dance and start sweeping from there. It just stayed for a lot of time on the field with his set and leftovers.
Mm-hmm. And I guess the moveset is pretty standard, but did you ever consider another move over the 4 that you did?
At start, I tried Roost over Protect, and that was because I thought it would work nice, having extra recovery, but I found myself needing Protect a lot of times. And Lefty's plus Protect provided enough recovery already. And Protect is just too valuable in a not Dynamax meta, especially because of all the fake outs and the super effective hits and pressure that some mons put. And the Scizor wasn't like this at the start. I tried what everyone tried with Lumberry and Metal Coat, but I quickly figured that it wasn't strong enough. And I felt like I was wasting Rain. Because with the Lumberry set and the Metal Coat set, a lot of fire type moves could still one-hit it, and I didn't like that. So I decided to go with this set because of that mostly. Otherwise, I didn't. If I were to play Lamb or Metal Coat, I would probably didn't play Rain. I think that's all about Scizor for now. And as for Politoad had many options, from Ice Beam to Encore, Hypno and Persong. All were really good options while testing them. But then I remember that this tournament was going to be open team seats. So I didn't really found much value with Encore in open team seats. Like when I played best of threes in practice with people that knew I had Encore, really played well around it. And I didn't like that. I felt like Hypnosis was more scary, maybe, and people had to respect it. Persong was very clutch in a lot of situations as well. So that's a set I wouldn't change, I think. I closed like 3 best of threes with Persong end games because there are threats that I just couldn't remove after a point without Persong. Like Cresselia, if I lost my Scissor, was really tough to remove. But if I still had a healthy Politoad at the end game, I could just close it out with Persong, as long as I was lower, of course. About the Ludicolo now, here you see that it's a bit slow, which seems weird at first. But after testing the fast Ludi for a while, I felt like I didn't need the speed most of the time because I didn't see many mons running Scarf or Tailwind around. So in rain, I could already outspeed most of the metagame. So I decided to go with a bulkier, slower spread in order to kinda get some value out of Giga Drain and the dual snarl I had in the team, Reflect and Intimidate, which allowed me to bring Ludicolo in matchups without even bringing Rain, just for the bulk it had behind the screens and all the support the team provided. The speed is just enough to outpace Raikou while in Rain, which is 92 speed, 184 doubled. And with this speed, it also made some plays in Trick Room against Julio, I think, that I played, because I was slower from his Rotom Wash.
Man, without all these new Pokemon, without like Tapu Koko, Spectrier, Regieleki, all of a sudden the speed tiers are so much lower. It's crazy that, Raikou is what, 115 speed, I think, or 110?
Yeah, 115, and it's
115.
like the fastest mon in the meta right now.
Right. There's no base 130 speed tier. I guess Crobat exists, but yeah, it's totally different.
Yeah. It's not that bulky, and so it's not that annoying. Crobat is just really fast, but yeah, I think Raikou is everywhere right now, so it's probably the most solid fast one of the meta right now.
Absolutely. I mean, again, just like looking at the top cut, it was on basically every rain team. I don't think going into it, people fully appreciated how much Raikou did for rain, but I think going forward, I think it's going to be standard.
Yeah, actually, Raikou just hit me out of nowhere. I tried Zapdos at some point because all we knew from Gen 8 was that Zapdos is great in rain. But in the BDSP meta, it lacks flying coverage. It doesn't get Hurricane, doesn't get Air Slash. So that's a bit weird. It just doesn't make it great in rain after all. So Raikou was a great option. Now that we talk about Raikou, you see that I use one as well, after all. I went with a Timid Nature and Max Speed because I didn't want to miss on any speed ties, because I expected to see a lot of Raikou, as you mentioned, and as we saw in the tournament. The item that I used was Citrus Berry over something like Light Clay that I saw, or Choice Specs, which was interesting. But Citrus came in clutch so many times. It just helped Raikou stay on the field for much longer and pass some snarls, some damage with Thunderbolt, set up a second Reflect many times. So I really got a lot of value out of Citrus in this set.
Yeah, I mean, your team is so bulky. All the Pokemon are bulky. You've got Intimidate, Reflect, Double Snarl. You've got so many different ways to mitigate damage and really slow the game down, which I think is really cool. on a Rain team because you're not reliant on doing a lot of damage the first time Rain goes up. A lot of times opponents want to stall out Rain, and you just have enough ways to slow the game down so that you can get it up a second time, even potentially a third time.
Yeah, exactly. That was very crucial in many games. And it also, it added choices to the team. It wasn't just bring Rain, go for offense and get KOs, or miss KOs and lose when Rain ran out. Some of the leads I did were like Ludi and Scissor, to pressure with fake out or switching in the Rain, Raikou and Ludi for the same exact reason, to set up a screen or snarl and switch to Rain. It just added a lot of options playing with these bulky spreads. Now, moving on to Arcanine, obviously Intimidate, a very useful ability in VGC the past, I don't know how many years, at least for the past 1 year and a half that I play. I think I didn't use a single team without Intimidate.
I think it's been around since Landorus Therian was in the metagame, which is 2012 or 2013. So
yeah,
even before then, we had Hitmontop and Scrafty. I think it's just always been there.
Yeah, actually, Hitmontop is amazing. I just realized in this tournament, I haven't used it before, and I didn't really try using it now because I didn't know if I could make the most out of it. But seeing it in this tournament seemed like an interesting option. So Arcanine provided a lot for this team. It gave me a fire type that I needed very much to check opposing Scissor, and of course Intimidate, to further slow down physical attackers. And then I went with a really physically bulky set to check things like Tyranitar, Garchomp, Hariyama that I expected to see from a lot of people, and I did. Speed was just enough to outpace things like Breloom, that I think reached 134. And some Togekis that play mid-speed, around 135, 136 speed. The moveset of Snarl, Protect, Safeguard, and Flare Blitz. Flare Blitz, obviously, for the fire type coverage, the strongest physical move it gets. Safeguard is the move that gave me the most value out of the Arcanine set. Like every time I faced something with Nuzzle or Will-O-Wisp, Scald, Sleep, a lot of Sleep Powder and Spore from Breloom, Tangrowth. It came in clutch many times, just protecting the whole team, and mostly Scissor. Scissor was annoyed by Spores, by Will-O-Wisp, by everything, every status. And I thought it was a great way to protect Scissor from those, since I didn't use a Lumberry and chose leftovers on it. And Latios came just to improve the opposing Garchomp matchup at start, but then I realized it also helped a lot against opposing Rain, when the opposing Rain didn't have a Raikou especially. Like if the opposing Rain was just Rain mode, the Fire type, and Scissor, and some other mons that were slower than Latios. With this set, I could just stack up Calm Minds and tank most of the hits a Rain team can offer, as long as I kept Scissor in check. And then I could proceed to sweep from there by getting HP back with Recover and just dealing a lot of damage with Soldew and +1 or +2 attacks.
Yeah. Latios and Latias, I think historically have been some of the best counters to Rain and Sun teams, with just like their incredible special defense, great resistances, the ability to calm mind up. Although I think this is the one Pokemon that we didn't really see on a ton of other Rain teams, with the exception of Dragon Master's team, which is the same 6 Pokemon as yours. Did you guys build a team together?
Actually, I built the team, most of the team alone, but the last day Laz was looking to play something, and because he didn't like what he was building, and I was like, here's my team. Do you want to try it out? And he's like, oh, yeah, why not? It looks great. I love Latios. And he also proposed the set for this Latios that we used. Laz mostly helped out, with some spreads. Most, especially the Arcanine spread was his suggestion, and the Latios spread, and especially the moveset on Latios. Recover Calmant was totally his idea. It never crossed my mind. I just went for Protect and Tailwind, the classic Latios that most people will use. But this Calmant set was very useful in some cases.
Yeah, I imagine especially against like teams that have weather. Maybe I guess Scizor is probably a problem when you're facing other rain teams and you have Latios. That might be a little tough to deal with.
Yeah, but as long as it's just Scizor, you can keep it in check with Arcanine very well. Now, if it's Scizor plus Tyranitar, that's really tough for Latios, and I played that a lot of times in the Swiss rounds.
Right.
So I didn't use Latios as much as I expected it to use, because the things I met in the tournament were very different from what I met on ladder the past days.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so, knowing what you know now, would you make any changes to the team moving forward?
Moving forward, yeah. Maybe if I could find something better than Latios on that slot, I will consider changing it, or maybe change the set to something else. I will really have to sit down and think a lot about it. But the other 5, I think, there's no reason to change any of those. Raikou is very important to the whole team. Arcanine is probably the best fire type coverage you can get in a rain team. And the sets I used on Scizor, Pauline, Ludi all worked amazingly. Especially at least the way I wanted to play the team, which was a bit slower. Now, about Latios, I probably would give Garchomp a shot, but it's still, I don't know. Latios is just so fast, and being that slow with the other ones of the team, it really helps having another fast one other than Raikou to put some pressure instantly.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, Latios definitely saw a decent amount of play, but also, again, like I mentioned, those 5 Pokemon, other than Latios, make up a majority of rain teams in Top Cut, and there were a lot of them in Top Cut. But then you also see Marcus used Snorlax, also used Hitmontop. We see Pado used a Mamoswine in that slot. I don't want to talk about this team. This team's crazy, the Narrowwitch team. But yeah, so there's a few different options in that slot. You played it?
I played Nara. I played Nara on Swiss on like round 6, I think. And yeah, the team was scary. When I first looked at it in the open seats, I was like, what the fuck is this? Why is there a Sedinja in this meta? But I was like, I had dual Snarl. That's all I'm going to say about this meta.
That's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that, I guess, again, moving forward, these 5 are going to stay on a majority of rain teams. And then it's really just a question of how you can use that last slot to best account for the rest of the metagame and how people are responding to this very, very powerful core that we see.
I also think that maybe Scizor with lefties will start to pick up in usage in the rain teams. I think you get the most value out of this set in rain. Really, Lumber in Metal Coat didn't feel that strong.
Yeah, I think it's a very cool set. I like it a lot. I'm a big fan of the bulky Scizor. And so yeah, so like I mentioned, there aren't really any like standard teams or standard cores that we saw, with the exception of this rain team. But the format is still very early, still very diverse. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts about how you approach team preview, what you were thinking about when you were deciding which Pokemon to bring, which Pokemon to lead, and if any Pokemon on opposing teams like really influence that decision.
Well, yeah, the meta is very fresh, so I didn't have many flowcharts in my head, especially going into the tournament. The teams I met in the tournament were very different from ladder, especially the core of Tyranitar, Hitmontop, and I think it also was accompanied by fire type most of the time, like Hitran or Arcanine or Rotom. I mostly tried to approach it with Ludicolo and Raikou as a lead, because I thought it gave me the best chance of checking everything. And then I brought Scizor and Arcanine most of the time in the back, mostly trying to play around my bulk and good switches, while exterminating some core threats. For example, against Evan's team, which was a very tough set for me, he had Specs Rotom Hit. Specs Rotom Hit put a lot of pressure, not just on my Scizor, surprisingly, but on the rain mode of the team. Because if I, for some reason, didn't target it, and as he had a Gastrodon, which I had to get rid of in order to target with Water-type moves, it could instantly pick up KOs on half my team. So looking at this thing, Rotom Hit and Hitmontop were the biggest problem. Hitmontop didn't allow me to set up Scizor by slowing me down. And Rotom Hit checked half of my team, and especially Scizor. So the moment I managed to somehow get rid of Rotom Hit, Scizor was able to kill everything else. Be it Hitmontop, be it Gastro, Latios, Torrential, or even the opposing Scizor. Because my bulk and lefties really helped play even the 1v1 with opposing Scizor at the end game. In general, my approach was lead something safe in game 1, which was mostly Ludi and Raikou or Ludi and Scizor, because of the fake out pressure and the sword dance pressure Scizor offered. Setting up a sword dance and then being able to dish out damage was pretty strong against most of the teams. And the Raikou could Volt Switch out to reposition, was immune to opposing fake out, could Snarl, could set a Reflect, and could prepare the field for something else to come in and take hits while setting up or sweeping.
Mm-hmm. And were there any specific Pokemon that you saw and that really forced you to change the way that you played the game?
Maybe the Top Cut matchup with Yoshi. Marcus had a very interesting rain team. The moment I saw it, I realized I was in trouble. Mostly because I saw Snorlax, which I had no way of hitting for super effective damage. And that was scary just in team preview. Like, I was focused so much on how to deal and get rid of that Snorlax with Stockpile and Belly Drum. It just seemed really scary to me. And then there was also his own Raikou, which was a very unique set in the whole tournament. No other Raikou used that set that I played, and I played a lot of them. He ran Light Screen, I think, yeah, with dual screens and Snarl, which was amazing in the mirror matchup. Like, setting light screens and having Snarls later against a rain team is huge. Dealing damage to his mons was really difficult for me.
Yeah. And so were there any other matchups that really stood out to you that you wanted to talk about in your tournament run?
Probably my matchup against Torviv, which was a very close one. It came down to some reads in game 3, which revolved around who would remove the opposing threats the fastest. And the combination of Tangrowth, Gastrodon, and Tyranitar put a lot of pressure on a lot of my mons. Made it really hard to pick my targets. So I tried to play around Arcanine and its Safeguard to get rid of Tangrowth. Like, I completely ignored Tangrowth for a lot of time because he didn't really press Rage Powder, and I had Safeguard for Sleep Powder. So I kind of forced him to switch out the Tangrowth. And I found myself in a position to grab a kill either on Gastrodon or Scizor, which really opened up the field from there.
Yeah.
Also, what Torviv had, which put a lot of pressure on my team, was the Specs Raikou. Specs Raikou was another set which I never saw on ladder. And it just did too much damage. And I was lucky that I decided to go with bulkier spreads on my mons. I knew that Ludicolo could take any hit from the Specs Raikou. Not that well, but at least I could answer back with a Giga Drain and somehow get some health back. And then use a Snarl with my own Raikou to slow his down. And yeah, it was a very position-heavy matchup. He had to be really careful around his team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, Torviv obviously did really well in this tournament as well. He got all the way to top 8. So again, you played a lot of really good players in your run. Like you mentioned, you beat James Evans, who ended up winning the entire tournament. I know Icare is a very good player. I don't know if he top cut. You beat My Stars, who was in top 16, Torviv in top 8, Julio also in top cut, and then of course that was in your undefeated run through Swiss before losing to Marcus Statter, of course, incredibly accomplished player in top 16. So just a really, really impressive run through the tournament. Those are all the questions that I had about the team. Did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about, or any final words or shout-outs that you wanted to give?
Actually, the only shout-outs I have to give are to Laz for helping me complete the team last moment. Because even one day before the tournament, I wasn't sure if I wanted to bring this team. I had another team working on. But Laz and his suggestions really clicked and made me say, I want to play this team in the tournament. And the other shout out is to the Greek VGC server for supporting me through the whole run. Yeah, and many other people that supported me, but you know, I can sit and list say names for days now, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I thank you again for coming on the channel. I really appreciate it because I loved hearing about this team. Like I said, this team is going to be like present in the metagame for the foreseeable future. It's just a really, really powerful combination of Pokemon. And so I really appreciate your insight into not only how you built it, but how to play it as well.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Adi, as well. I really appreciate it because, you know, I think that I'm good at building at this point, and I'm really happy that I got this far with this team, which made it into your channel. Mm-hmm. I hope I will make it again someday with some other team.
I am confident that you will. You have consistently shown that you are one of the top players in Europe, so I'm not worried about that at all. And I look forward to having you on the channel in the future.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you all for watching. And until next time, I will see you all later.